Hello and welcome to Battle Report number 11. So we're back with the Masters Open and round 4. You might notice that the army symbols are the other way around. Kingdom of Equitaine is in the opponent's slot and Makhar is in mine, and that's because round 4 for the Masters Open was the army swap. So we had to use the opponent's list. We were drawn against opponents as normal, and then we had to use their list in this round. And I got drawn against the second of only 3 supplement armies. So there's only 3 people playing the supplements in the Masters Open, and I've been drawn against 2 of them so far, including the one for the army swap. So now I had to learn the Makhar book ready for a one-off game, which was very entertaining. At least I wasn't graded on it, I suppose, as long as you're not counting the score for that. So let's take a look at the lists and see what I've had to bring for this game. So I had now I'm going to mispronounce a couple of, well, the character names at the very least, I think. The Táltos, who's on a black Stallion. He's a wizard master of Thaumaturgy. He's got the Alchemist's alloy, which I think in total gives him a 4+ armor save to total with the black Stallion. And he's got the magical Heirloom to give him the hereditary for Makhar. Then we've got I think this is pronounced Gyula. Basically a barbarian chief on a black stallion with Death Cheetah for a 4+4+ with a Makhar lance. Makhar lances give the model fight an extra rank, and it's two-handed. I don't think they have access to normal lances, so it's between a light lance and a two-handed one, which is what we've gone for here. That's enchanted with Blessed Inscriptions for divine attacks and reroll wounds. He's got an Obsidian rock for magic resistance 2, and Stallion's Tempest, which I think is a upgrade for the Barbarian Chief, which gives the unit that he's in battle focus, which is entertaining, with the big blocks of Lancers in core. So he's got 2 units of 15 Makhar Lancers, both with Lamellar Barding, so that gives +1 armor up to a maximum of 4. Makhar Lances for two-handed and fight an extra rank. And Rending banners, as Makhar Lances are strength 4 AP 0, so on the chance even with proper Lances they're only AP 2. So if you really need it you can pop the Rending banner and get up to AP 3. 2 lots of 10 Makhar Lances with light lances, Vanguard and shields. Both have a musician and one's got a champion. Then in special, this is why I took this list as opposed to the other one, a unit of 9 Karkadan with the Bulls upgrade. So they work exactly the same as Karkadan mounts in the Warriors of the Dark God book, but they get D3 impact hits, which I'm not sure the mounts do. And then if there's a model in the file behind that model, they add an additional D3 to the impact hits. So that unit on the charge is doing 9 strength 5 AP2 impact hits, which just looks hilarious. And so, you know, against a small model count army like Kingdom of Equitaine, even with all the armor, I should just be able to hit a unit and then just, you know, cause it all sorts of problems with that. On top of that, it's fearless, which is nice, and they're discipline 9 while they've got all of their ranks. They're discipline 7 as base, and then they add 1 for each full rank that they've got above the first. 3 lots of Makhar flayers with recurve bow and parting shot. So if you don't know anything about Makhar, basically their big thing is they're barbarian horsemen, but they get a special charge reaction called parting shot, where they get to stand and shoot, and then they get to make a flee move. Models with parting shot generally have feigned flight as well, which means that they get to rally on the following turn and then make a full move and shoot again. So if you've got lots of units that you can do that, you can stagger that quite well, and it just becomes a little bit of a problem to tie any unit down. The other version of this list, the other detachment, had another unit of 10 flayers with recurve bow and parting shot. I should also mention that Makhar flayers get battle focus again, not battle focus, they get lethal strike with their shooting against beasts and, crucially, cavalry. So I probably avoided a really horrible matchup by having the army swap. It's just a little bit awkward having to learn the book before I went into it. But I chose between taking out the 4th unit of flayers for the 9 Karkadans and a step mammoth with Rally Around the Flag. So that acts as my BSB, but because it's got Towering Presence, that's an 18-inch bubble. And if I'm fleeing lots and then relying on those units rallying in the turn afterwards so that they can do things then, I figured that the bigger BSB bubble was going to be useful. And I could just kind of sit that behind my lines and let that do its thing. And it's Strength 6, AP 3 as well, so if it needs to, it can stand on a couple of knights as well. Then my list / my opponent's list, they've gone for the same detachment as I've used every time. If you've not seen any of the battle reports, give it a quick pause and have a look, or it'll be in the comments below. So, for this game we were playing Dawn Assault and Spoils of War, so 3 tokens in the centre that we've got to go and pick up, which is really, really good for me because I've got 2 scoring units with Vanguard, and I'm just as quick as Equitane are. Otherwise I think the Equitane might have an advantage on the objective otherwise. So I was quite pleased for that. And of course the 3 units of flayers have Strider, so I can ignore the ruins in my deployment zone. I've put the Karkadans up on the hill there to give them rerolls on their charge to make sure I get all those impact hits in. I've hidden the Step Mammoth behind my lines in the centre so it can reach out as far as it can with the 18-inch bubble. I've got my Táltos in the big unit of Lancers on the right, and my General in the big unit of Lancers next to the hill. On the other side, he's got his Grail Knights and BSB on the far left. The Divination Damsel with her Questing Knight Bodyguard, Aspirants in front of them, then the unit of Pegasus Knights. The Druidess Damsel with the Banner of the Last Charge unit is sitting on the hill on the right, then the Yeoman, then the General tucked away in the corner, and the other unit of Realm Knights, the small unit on the far right there. Because both armies are predominantly Advance 8 and then Swift Stride, and with both armies being very dependent on the charge and him having a far lower model count, I think he was nervous about being outcharged, especially with Makhar getting rerolls of 1 on the charge as well, on the charge distance. So he deployed very far back with the Grails and the Quests, and particularly with the General on the far right. I'm not certain what the plan with him was. I think because I've got an awful lot of lethal strike in my army, there is a chance of just putting an awful lot of wounds on him if I get to focus more than 1 Flayer unit on him. Plus I get a couple of snipes with Thaumaturgy. I'll go through the spells in a moment. So I think he was conscious of losing an awful lot of points just to a lucky roll from some of my Flayers, which is why he's hidden away over there. So spells. The Wizard King for the Equitane rolled Awaken the Beast, so he's got +1 Strength and AP or Resilience, and that gives him Scarification as well, which is excellent. Should make a big difference in this game as well. The Druidism Adept has taken Master of Earth and Summer's Growth, and the Divination Master took the Hereditary spell, Know Thine Enemy, Scrying, and the Stars Align for rerolls to hit and divine attacks. So, I've got 5 Vanguard units, so we go through to do Vanguard, and everything shuffles around an awful lot. His Yeomen move up onto the flank there, and his Pegasus Knights you move to the left in front of the Quests and the Grails. All 3 of my Flayer units move to long range to tempt out some charges maybe so I can start shooting at some stuff. And I Vanguard a little bit more cautiously with the Lancers on the left, and the Lancers on the right move onto the terrain. It means that if the Aspirants on next to the impassable terrain there charge the Flayers, I don't need to worry about a low flee distance then being caught by the Aspirants, because they'll turn around. I only need to roll more than like 3, and I'll ping through to the other side of the Lancers, which means that they won't be caught. And they'll still be within plenty of distance to rally next turn. Even though I'm playing against KOE, I managed to lose the roll for first turn. So with the charges there, the Banner of the Last Charge and Realms on the Hill charge those Flayers. I stand and shoot. Well, I do a parting shot, don't kill anything, and then flee away from them. And again, they've got the Strider, so they can ignore the terrain that they go into, and the aspirants, as predicted, charge those flayers. I do a parting shot, don't kill anything, and then flee through to the other side of those lancers. I do panic the lancers, of course, going through them, but with my general and BSB in range, it's a Discipline 9 rerollable, so not a problem to pass. We go on to Kingdom of Equitaine moves. So his yeomen on the right move up to chaff my big unit of lancers with the Táltos. The Grails with the Stalker Standard move into the forest to start looking at pressuring some units for long charges. The Hippogriff on the right moves up as far as he can, still being incredibly cautious of all my shooting and my offensive magic. And the quests are stuck a little bit behind the aspirants, so they shuffle up a little bit behind as well. And the Pegasus Knights continue their flanking manoeuvre, heading further out to the left. So we go to Equitaine, Magic and Shooting. Obviously there's not an awful lot to be done shooting-wise, but he gets off Oaken Throne and casts Master of Earth on that fleeing unit of flayers there with the marker on them, and kills the 3. Of course they're already fleeing, so they can't panic. I don't think anything else particularly happens. I mean, with Druidism and then the Divination Damsel being so far out of range, there wasn't an awful lot to do, so that's that there. And we go to Makhar turn 1. So I rally both of the fleeing Flayer units, and move them up nice and close to the banner of the last charge unit, so I can get some nice lethal strike shooting on them. I dare the banner of the last charge unit to charge into that unit of flayers. It'll panic the other flayers, but again, BSB's right there, and then I can countercharge with my big unit of lancers back there as well. I shuffle everything around on the left flank a bit. Again, I mean, yeah, we're on a bit of a standoff until something happens on that flank. As we've got similar charge ranges, and we've got similar power on the charge as well. But definitely, you know, he's more likely to be able to withstand a charge from me than the other way around. If he charges me, then it's going to hurt me an awful lot. So I move my flayers into range so that the front rank get their lethal strike against the Grail Knights, and the flayers in the centre do a swift reform and then move on to the central objective to pick that up. So, post-magic, I put down the little gold star between the quests and the Grails is Wrath of God. I don't think I managed to cast anything else. Oh, no, by the looks of things, I've panicked the... I must have cast Hand of Heaven on the Yeoman there, so I've killed 3 of them and they've panicked away. So they're now chaffing that unit of Realm Knights in the, on the right in front of the Hippogriff. Then we go through to shooting. So the unit of flayers on the left, as I mentioned, only the front rank were in range for causing lethal strikes. But that didn't stop me from causing 3 lethal strikes and an additional wound. He failed his 1 armor save and then failed all 4 5-up Aegis saves. So I've killed half a unit of Grail Knights there, which is... You know, I'll take that. That's a good 350 points or so just from that 1 turn of shooting, which is rather nice. Of course, on the other flank with the 17 flayers in range for the lethal strike, I don't manage any of them on the banner of the last charge unit, so they're perfectly fine. And we go through to Equitaine turn 2. So, understandably, the Grail Knights charge into the flayers right in front of them. They flee through the Lancers, who fail their panic test and flee off the board, which is... oops. But... for killing half the unit... it looks as though I've killed another one on my parting shot there as well. So he charged me, I stood and shot, killed another one, and then fled through, and then panicked the Lancers off. Thankfully, the Karkadans are fearless, so they didn't panic off, which is very, very good for me, because that would have been real bad for that flank. On the other side... Oh, he has charged the banner of the last charge into those flayers. It's just that I haven't got that in this screenshot. I've got that in the next one, like so. So the Grail Knights fail forward out of the forest. The Pegasus Knights move up onto the flank again. The Hippogriff on the other side continues to go for a wide flanking maneuver. And the Yeoman rally with the General just there. The Aspirants move up past my Lancers in the centre and dare my Step Mammoth and Lancer Block with my Gyula to charge them, with the Questing Knights waiting behind them for a counter charge. Go through to Magic. So he's still got Oaken Throne up. He manages to cast Awaken the Beast for extra resilience on the Questing Knights, the Grail Knights even, so the BSB and those 3 Grails are now resilience 5, and the BSB has scarification off on him, so he's now being wounded on 5s. Go to post-combat, and of course the impact hits from the Banner of the Last Charge unit easily destroys those Lancers. I don't suffer any panic though, fortunately, so he reforms to face my Flayers on the left, but keeping my big block of Lancers in his front. And we go to Makhar turn 2. So I put the Flayers into the flank of the Banner of the Last Charge unit. They get lethal strike in combat as well, and it brings in a little bit of extra combat res as well, as I'm not currently breaking his Steadfast. So an additional flank, even if it's not a big flank, is going to help me. I also charge the Karkadans into the 3 remaining Grail Knights and the BSB with 9d6 Strength 5 AP2 impact hits. I'm looking to smash through that even with their extra resilience, I hope. And then the General's unit and his Lancers charge into those Aspirants. I also pick up the central objective with the small Lancers. Post moves, I reform again with the Lancers in the centre and start sneaking through the middle, hide away from the Questing Knights and the Hippogriff on the other side. I move the Step Mammoth up into the centre of the board so that it's in range of everything with its rally round the flag. And I rally the fleeing Flayers on the left-hand flank and move them up in between my Karkadans and my Lancers to get some long-range shots on those Questing Knights. You will notice that the Pegasus Knights can very easily flank charge the Karkadans, and then they've got a pretty short overrun into the flank of the Flayers, which I didn't see at the time. I was making eyes at more lethal strike shooting, which was brash of me, I think. But we'll see how that works out for me. So we go to post-combat. The shooting from the Flayers kills a single Quest Knight. The Comet also comes down this turn and only hits the Questing Knights and then doesn't kill any of them. In combat, the General's unit easily dispatches the Aspirants. The Karkadans on the left... Oh. So with their 9d6 impact hits, I think I caused 12 or so. So each model in the unit takes 3 Strength 5 impact hits, and they were only wounding the BSB on 5s. So that wasn't nearly enough to kill him, but it does finish off the 3 Grails, which is good. And the Flayers... Oh, I should mention that the BSB and the Grails managed to do 5 wounds to the Karkadans, so I don't even win combat by enough to break him and run him down there, which is a massive pain in the arse, especially with the Pegasus in my flank there. And of course the Táltos and the Lancers with the Flayers break and run down the Banner of the Last Charge unit and the Druidess. So it's looking very good for me at this point. But it does mean that I've got that small unit of Realm Knights in my flank, which isn't the ideal position to be in, especially with that being my only source of magic. Oh, I should mention in magic I've got Smite the Unbeliever on the Realm Knights and reduce their strength and AP, so they were having a harder time of wounding the Lancers on the right there. So, KOE turn 3. He charges the Pegasus into the flank of my Karkadans. He's going to be bringing... Of course, I've not got any armour, and I'm only Resilience 4. So he'll be doing a good amount of wounds there, and I don't have any static combat res besides my rank. So that's not looking good for them, especially with the short overrun into the Flayers to the right. He attempts to charge the Step Mammoth with the Questing Knights, and as he gets an extra 2 again, +2 advance against fear-causing models, I decide that that's too close for comfort, and I flee that. He then charges the General's Lancers, which I hold, and it's only a 6-inch charge or so, but he does manage to fail that, so he stumbles forward a couple of inches, which isn't good for him, and very, very lucky for me. He charges the 2 Yeomen and the Realm Knights on the right into the flank of my Lancers there, and of course 2 ranks break steadfast, so that's looking very, very poor for them, especially considering Makhar Lancers are essentially just barbarian horsemen, so that's not going to go well for them. Nothing particular happens in magic. Oh no, sorry, he gets off Know Thine Enemy and the Hereditary spell on the Questing Knights on the left. And he puts the Divination attribute, Guiding Light, on the Questing Knights there as well. Post-combat though, he easily breaks those Lancers on the right, smashes through them, and the Yeomen run them down, with the Realm Knights waiting for the Lancers with the objective there. You can see that he has broken the Karkadans very easily as well. I don't think I rolled particularly high for my flee distance, but I did roll more than him, thankfully, and with all the units there and the Karkadans having such a large unit footprint, they fled all the way through to in front of the Hippogriff there. And he fails to make his overrun with the Pegasus into the side of my flayers. I can't remember the reason for not chasing with the BSB. I think it may have just been that we moved through too quickly. So we rolled the flee distance for the Karkadans and the overrun with the Pegasus. I think he was just looking at how close the Pegasus Knights needed to go. It also keeps the BSB a little bit further away from combat, so it's a little bit safer for him there. And we go to Makhar turn 3. So I rally the Karkadans and turn them to face... and I rally the Steppe Mammoth as well, so that those units are both rallied, and I turn to face the Hippogriff. I make sure that the Karkadans are in a position that they can countercharge the Hippogriff if he decides to charge the Steppe Mammoth. The General and the Lancers charge into the Questing Knights. I use my units of flayers on the right to chaff up the Realm Knights from getting to my scoring Lancers, and I decline to charge the 2 Yeomen. And then the flayers on the left move up behind the BSB and the Pegasus Knights to start getting some lethal strike shooting on there. If I get a couple of 6s on there, if I get lucky like I did with the Grail Knights, then I'll be able to take him off as well, which would be good for my points. Oh, it also looks as though last turn I took a couple of wounds with the flee move on my Steppe Mammoth as it fled through the ruins there. After shooting, I managed to roll really well for my lethal strike again. I take off a rank of Realm Knights on the right, but they pass their panic, and the flayers on the left do 2 wounds to the BSB. Post-combat, I make short work of the Questing Knights as I'm striking well before them, and I'm strength 6, so I'm wounding them with lots, and I think I've got either Hatred or Battle Focus. Yeah, with my General in there, that unit has Battle Focus, so I just between the number of the sheer number of attacks that I'm hitting with and then wounding, I do enough wounds to then break his Steadfast. I automatically break him, and then he rolls very poorly for his flee move, and I run him down. So at this point, he's only got his Yeoman, a small unit of Realm Knights. He's got his General and his BSB, and a unit of Pegasus Knights. So it's looking very, very good for me. And it's just a couple of very crucial rolls with the overrun from the Pegasus Knights and the failed charge on the left with the quests that's put me in a really good position. Plus my shooting's been very on point. So I am looking to tidy up in the last couple of turns here. As we go into Equitane turn 4. So he joins the BSB to the Pegasus Knights. It doesn't mean that I can't pick him out with shooting still, but because the Pegasus Knights have hard target, the BSB picks that up for being with that unit as well, which makes him a little bit more survivable against all my shooting. He does charge the Hippogriff into my Steppe Mammoth there, and he charges the 3 Realm Knights into my flayers on the right. We go to post-combat. He kills 4 of me, but I'm striking at the same time as well, so I managed to kill 2 Realm Knights in return. He breaks me and I flee through those Yeomen. And in combat he rolls really very poorly. He gets very unlucky with his the Hippogriff, and only manages to put 2 wounds onto the Steppe Mammoth. I do manage to do 1 to him as well, so I then pass my discipline check. Yeah, so he's got a charge and 2 wounds, and I've done a wound to him, so I only lose by 2. So it's a discipline 7 with a reroll, so pretty good odds of me passing that, which I managed to do, which means he's now worried about a flank charge from my Karkadans. And we go to Makhar turn 4. So I do indeed do that. I charge the Karkadans into the flank there. It'll be bringing in a big flank because that's a full rank of Karkadans there. And I'm just hoping to, at the very least, pin the Hippogriff, so I don't need to worry about him. Like, if he catches any other unit, that he's going to make short work of it, just because of the amount of high strength and AP attacks that he puts out, and I don't have enough armor to repel that. So I'm hoping to pin them in place, and they take another wound from charging through the Dangerous there. No other charges besides that. I reform the General's Lancers and start making a move towards the objective on the left, as I'm worried about the remaining Realm Knight picking up his objective and then drawing the secondary. I move the Flayers on the left towards the Pegasus Knights, ready to do some more lethal strike shooting on that unit, and the Flayers at the bottom also rally again. So I've been extraordinarily lucky and consistent with my rally rolls, passing several without BSB re-rolls as well. So that's been really very handy for me as well. Unfortunately, nothing happens in shooting, but I think that's about due that. In combat, the Duke does manage to finish off the Steppe Mammoth, and then with the amount of static combat res that I brought in with the Karkadans, I managed to do a wound to him, and then a charge, flank, big flank. I cause enough that he then fails his discipline and flees off the board, chased by the herd of Karkadans. So that's a huge point swing in my favour as well, and I got very, very lucky that I managed to do enough there to chase him off. So that's looking very, very good for me. And we go to Aquitaine turn 5. Post charges, I did try to flee with the Lancers there. I think I was... Yeah, I was plenty far enough away with... and then Swift Stride as well, so I had a good few inches on him to make sure that I got away in good time. But I rolled very, very low, so he managed to catch me with no problem and wipes out that unit, and then makes his free reform to turn around and face me. And he moves his remaining Realm Knight onto the objective on the right to pick that up and hopefully draw the objective. There we go. So, Makhar turn 5. I move my Karkadans back onto the board. It's only an advanced move, so they don't need to worry about Dangerous from the ruins there, but they're just facing into the centre of the board to make sure that I'm covering the BSB and Pegasus Knights from doing anything brash. I pick up the objective on the left with my Lancers, and those Flayers continue to harass the Pegasus Knights and the BSB in the centre. My 4 remaining Flayers make their march test and move over to where the remaining Realm Knight is, to hopefully finish him off and win the objective. Post shooting, I do manage to inflict enough hits on the BSB to kill him, and I manage a lethal strike on the remaining Realm Knight as well, so that's wiped out. And won the objective for me there. And then Aquitaine turn 6, and my turn 6, he moves up into the corner, hides the Yeoman from me, and then we just move the Flayers close enough to see if I cause enough wounds to cause a panic on there, which I don't. And that takes us to the final score. So with only the Pegasus Knights and half a unit of Yeoman left, I got pretty close to taking all of his points, but he caused enough damage to me with taking out my caster, or a couple of units of the Flayers, the small Lancers, my Steppe Mammoth. So it was a 15-5 on points, and then I just had enough scoring at the end to score the objective to bring it to an 18-2. So I think the result here doesn't really reflect how close the game could have been. It was only a couple of very crucial rolls halfway through the game that really, really swung it in my favour, particularly taking off the General as well. A couple of failed charges and overruns really carried me through. And as well, it was a really, really good matchup for so much lethal strike shooting against cavalry. I mean, that's the thing that you need to get through Kingdom of Aquitaine, is just a little bit of AP will take you a long way. And of course, he only gets 6 up Aegis against that as well, because it's not strength 5. So yeah, I got very lucky with the army swap, I think. This would have been a very bad matchup for my Equitane, and I managed to avoid it by playing the Makhar instead. So I took nearly max points, which I can be pleased with. So that's moved me up the board a little bit, and looking forward to next game. Next game should be against vampires. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Give me your thoughts on Makhar as well. I think it's probably my least favourite of the 3 supplements, but that's just because cultists are cool, and who doesn't like ice trolls? So thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.